Claire is a certified executive coach. She draws on her experience as an industry-recognized productivity consultant and professional organizer to co-create custom solutions that really work for clients. With over 15 years in marketing, sales, HR, product development, finance, and communications in national and international companies, Claire understands senior management concerns and how to practically support and to develop today's workforce. At the end of Claire's discussion, we'll have time for an exchange where you can ask questions and dig in further with some feedback. Please welcome Clare Kumar to the stage.
Thank you. Awesome. I've got full control. I love it. Thank you very much. So awesome to be here. Thank you to Des and to Jen and to Kristen for kicking off with such rich discussions. It's like they knew what I was going to talk about. This is so exciting. So I'm here to talk about the 2 key ingredients you need for a high-performance workplace. And let's get the clicker working. Do I need to aim it over here? Great. Oh, good. Okay, hang on. There we go. So apparently Des and I both like meerkats, right? Like, cutest things ever. But why am I showing you a picture of a meerkat? So I'm doing this because it connects the dots a little bit for you to understand why I do what I do, and it also links to the corporate piece in terms of compassion. So I don't know if you know meerkats. There's usually one at all times standing on guard. They rotate within the group. If one gets tired, their head goes down, they're foraging, their head's down, their butt's up in the air, and they're at risk of being prey for some of the animals in the desert where they live. So there's one on guard all the time. That meerkat is on duty. They are smelling, they are looking, they're up on their hind legs. It's really cute. There's a David Attenborough video that's really, really fun to watch about these guys. Anyway, they're on duty all the time, and for about an hour, and then they go back to rest. Well, I'm bringing this up because I'm what they call a highly sensitive person. Highly sensitive person is kind of on duty like that all the time. Our nervous systems respond to everything at full tilt. I can be aware of the noise outside, the humidity in the room, the texture. I declined reading a book for book club because the paper was too rough. Like, does anybody else done that? So, I look like a bit of a weirdo. So this is a temperament. Actually, 15 to 20% of your employees fall in this category. So if you look at Elaine Aron's work, she published and did the research on this. It's something to consider. So I bring this up because I'm one of those people who wasn't a fit. And I had a 15-year corporate career, and I ended up leaving because I wasn't a fit. However, results and performance was great, but I wasn't a fit for a particular manager, and that was my way out. So I wanted to paint this picture because a temperament of 15 to 20% of your people needs to be accommodated. If we look at the people with invisible challenges, that's 14% of the population has disabilities. Depression is going to be the leading cause of illness in Canada by 2020. What are we doing to understand individuals, and what are we doing to invite their best? So this has become, so I appear as an organization and productivity expert. For years, I was kind of the Marie Kondo of Canada. And I've expanded, because organization is still a foundation for personal success, but I've moved now into really looking at productivity and performance in a whole life perspective. And that comes from me developing coping strategies for having this kind of temperament, to be so sensitive to visual stimulation. So I need a tidier place. I need to make my bed every day. Hands up, who makes their bed every day? Yeah. So not everybody believes it's important, but for me, it calms my world. So that's just a little preface that helps you understand why I do what I do and why I am now really loud and vocal about having corporations think about humans and respect humanity in the workplace. And that's what this is going to be all about. Okay. So there are 2 ingredients: productive employees. And that's, what I do is help people understand how to be more productive. I'm going to take you through a model that I've built over the last 15 years of working at this to help people understand how to show up and be their best selves and have sustainable performance. And then I want to finish with a couple of thoughts around compassionate leadership. Because if you have the most productive workforce and something happens and it's not met with compassion as a leader, how are you going to be inviting the best from your people? So when we have a lost opportunity. And some of the comments that we've been talked about already, I'm loving, because I'll just echo some of those. Coaching as a leader, for example, that coaching presence is massive in terms of staying in that compassionate, curious mindset and then say, what's up? Invite the best from your people. But first, I'm going to dive into what I call productivity CPR. So we know what CPR is, right? We've got a catastrophe and we need to restart the heart and get all the oxygen flowing to all the organs. Well, productivity CPR is a methodology to help people that are heading a little bit towards burnout or dipping down in their productivity to figure out what to put back on track to be sustainably productive. So I'm going to take you through that quickly. This could be 3 days. It's going to be about 10 minutes on this piece, okay? The first part is compass, and when we're talking about values and alignment of values, personal values with corporate values and setting direction. So compass is all about setting intention. And I love the tombstone application. I have a methodology for cultivating awareness, because awareness, really, everything starts with awareness. If you're unaware, we talked about blind spots in our last group, leadership blind spots to how things are going. If we're not aware, we can't do anything to improve. So cultivating self-awareness, we talked about mindfulness, meditation, journaling, working with a coach, working with a therapist, getting feedback. Having some regular way of cultivating that self-awareness is a matter of necessity to make sure we can keep developing and growing. And one of the ways we can do that is through, I call this, instead of time management, I call it lifetime management, or the AKA was the deathbed regret prevention program, so that you don't end up with shareholder value statements on your tombstone. It means you're cultivating a rich and fulfilling life. The idea is that you stay in the driver's seat of your life, and what I have my clients do is every 90 days, this is, it's taken from a Wheel of Life concept. So, and has anybody worked with a life coach before and seen a Wheel of Life? So a few people. I'm seeing it grow from about 2% in a room to maybe now 4% of people. The idea is that you think of the different areas of life. Here we have purpose, wellness, development, relationships, lifestyle. Play is one that a lot of grown-ups forget and don't think is important. But if you want to reflect back on your life and think, I had a good ride, there's got to be cultivation of some things for just the pure enjoyment of them in your life. And so what you do with this tool, and I'll be happy to share it with anybody, so just reach out to me if you want it, you rate your satisfaction in each of these different 6 areas between a 0 and a 10. You plot them on the pie and you connect the dots. And it's just a powerful way to take a snapshot, to pause, reflect, and then have a visual representation at that particular point in time of where a particular area of life is not really where you want it to be. And in a couple of workshops recently, I've had the question, but I don't always want to shoot for a 10 out of 10. What is that? I'm always going to feel like I'm failing. So the concept here is we want to have a vision of the richness that we want to cultivate in our relationships, for example. I want a solid partner relationship. I want good relationship with my kids, with the person I'm working with my teammates. I want those to be fulfilling. And so I want to aim high. That said, I want everyone to also reflect on what your capacity is at any point in time. And your 10 today might not be the same in 2 weeks from now if, for example, you tripped going down these stairs and you have a broken leg. All of a sudden, your capacity is different. So as that changes, I want you to honor what your capacity is and then shoot for the best that you can given that. So I have an autoimmune disease, and there are periods of time where my capacity has been dramatically affected, and my 10 is completely different in that period of time, whereas today it would look completely differently. So that's an important piece to consider when you're assessing satisfaction. And this is your definition, right? So you do this every 90 days, and you stay in what I call the CFO position of your life. No one else can be the chief fulfillment officer for you. That is your job. And I want you to always think about, how do I get there? And this could be a useful way to stay in that position, along with the other mindfulness and self-awareness pieces. Okay? Okay, so there we go. Yeah, lifetime management. I call it a satisfaction survey. That's what it's all about. Oh, I'm not very good with the clicker. Sorry. So the point is, with self-awareness, is tune in before you lean in. We hear a lot of talk about leaning in, but I think we need to do the tuning in first And then we can decide what we want to lean into, right? If we don't, then we might be doing all of our actions aiming over here, but really our intention is this way, and then how much lost energy is there in our performance, okay? So P is for performance. This is where my biology degree starts to make sense. So I went from biology into telecommunications for 15 years, and then no one ever understood where that came from. I did a business degree in between, but performance is all about understanding the human animal, that we are animals, right? We kind of forget. I think AI may help us remember more of our human qualities, but we have to understand how we interact with things. And as a highly sensitive person, the light, the sound, the humidity, the amount of sleep we need, there are different elements that we need to pay attention to and understand our relationship to individually. They are going to be different. And once we do, we can then honor them, make sure we have what we need to be sustainably productive. So I put a model together. It's basically showing you 8 different elements that you need to understand your relationship with. And you will have heard about sleep and fuel and exercise for sure. Those are often very much talked about. The most important one, I think, though, to start with is mindset. And as depression and anxiety and overwhelm come and be more apparent for more of us, starting your day every day with a mindset practice to come back to an intention about how you want to live and course correct all those pesky voices that are in our head or on our shoulder, kind of to tell us that we're imposters, we're not enough, we should be doing more. If we can correct that and start every day with a great mindset, we're going to be really in a much, much better place. So mindset, yes. Sleep, know how much sleep you need in a 24-hour period. Make sure you get it, defend it. If restrooms could be restrooms, I would be really excited about that. We need to promote sleep and rest. I love that TD has a wellness room, and you're not allowed to take technology into it. Ariana Huffington in her office, she wrote Thrive, and started by falling down and cracking her cheek open because she was working too hard. So we need to respect sleep. Massively powerful. Fuel, what are you putting in your body, right? Are you trying to run a Ferrari with Doritos? Like, it's not going to work. However yummy it is, it's not going to work. So are you honoring your body? Are you honoring this vessel that we are able to use to accomplish what we want? Are you taking care of it? Movement. Sit, stand, desk, the best thing ever to incorporate more movement. Making sure we're not sitting and eating at our desks at lunch, that we're incorporating movement throughout the day. Absolutely massively important from a mood perspective, and also just physically keeping us healthy, right? So light. This is very much under talked about, and we live in a climate, I think we knew this winter was really tough and really long. We are in the top, the top 6 brightest days of the year now. I'm beyond happy because of the energy that comes from light. So it affects our mood, it resets our body clocks. And so to pay attention to that and understand what we need and how we respond to that is really important. Vitamin D, also huge. So in the winter, I'm committed to going away every 6 weeks because vitamin D diminishes every 6 weeks. It only has a 6-week life to be in your body. So to go away and get light to boost mood and to build vitamin D, what do you need to stay at your best, and how does light? We have to now watch out also for too much light. As we've got LEDs, lights, and that are emitting massive quantities of light, the city bylaws only talk about minimum light standards. There's no maximum. So Casper, the bedding company, actually just did an announcement that they're turning their billboard on the Gardner off at night so people can get better sleep. So we have to watch for light pollution as much as we need access, and we need to understand how our circadian rhythms work so that we can then be energized throughout the day to sustainably give our effort and energy to those intentions that we set with Compass. So Compass was all about setting intention. This performance piece is really about managing our attention so we can bring it to the things, activities, and people that are important to us, right? Quickly touching on comfort, that's ergonomics, that's also the physical environment that you're in. Paying attention when something goes wrong to course correct it as quickly as you can to understand what's getting in the way. I remember working at one of the major telecom companies back in the day, and I started seeing people walking around with carpal tunnel wrist braces. And it's completely avoidable. but there was a lack of education from the employee perspective and the corporation in terms of disseminating that, and then people with issues that didn't need to be there, and not only sabotaging immediate productivity, but long-term damage. I suffered rotator cuff tendonitis because I was given an 8-hour, I was in a finance job for a year, long year for me, 8 hours of spreadsheet development on a round table, mousing somewhere out here. Like you hold your arm out here for 2-3 minutes, it's going to be sore. So for two years, I couldn't sleep on that side. I couldn't hold a bag. It was crazy and completely avoidable. So paying attention to comfort, because if you're uncomfortable, your cognitive energy is giving some attention to what's causing that problem. So solving that is huge. Attention. Anybody got a lot of notifications on, a lot of interruptions, small children, lots of things? Cultivating our attention. Who has people that are reading their emails so fast or not scrolling down? You know that they didn't read, right? Do we not see the challenges in slowing down and paying attention? So whatever we can do to cultivate that is hugely useful. And the last point in this model, which is really becoming more apparent as we spend more time shopping online and have self-checkouts in the grocery store, and more people than ever live alone, is we have a fundamental need for humans for connection. It's a strong need as primates. If a mother is ignoring a baby, the babies will get aggressive and bite the mother to get attention. So it's really powerful, and we need to think about the cultures that we're creating to make sure that everybody in our community is getting the kind of connection and social connection that they need, because work, being that we spend so much time at it, community needs to be part of our work experience. So those are the 8 different things that if we understand our awareness to them, then we can make sure that they're there in our lives. We can then set boundaries and gracefully defend them to make sure we can preserve what we need. So I'd love to have some more conversation about that as we move into discussions. R is for rituals. So we had C, compass, that was setting intention. P was performance, managing attention. Rituals is all about optimizing our execution, right? And why rituals? Rituals is a word, I think, that honors up. It brings some reverence and respect to the kinds of things that we want to do regularly. I don't care if this is your laundry and it's something you have to do all the time. It's cooking. It's populating your CRM. However mundane it is, whatever you need to do, I would love you to be able to reframe your mindset so you can bring some honor and reverence and thought and joy and love to these things that you do, because you're paying yourself forward or you're giving to others. So thinking about rituals, it covers things. This is what you would traditionally think of in productivity training. So it's prioritization skills. We heard a lot about that and the challenge on prioritizing things, right? It deals with schedule management and how to effectively manage time so you're being useful. Communication, one of our biggest time thieves is, somebody mentioned reply all. I thought that the podcast, right? What a fabulous thing not to do an email, right? Because all of a sudden you've been the biggest time thief yesterday. It was funny, I was talking to another company I was looking at collaborating with, and the CEO of the company we were connecting, and I noticed she always had 3 other people copied on the email. And I said, I emailed her back and I said, my personal policy on this or preference would be just to communicate with you, but is there a need for everyone to be in the loop? I want all the team to know. And I thought, oh man, the amount of time that is being stolen from all these lives is kind of outrageous and a little bit sad and completely unnecessary. So what kind of culture are you in, and what can we do to be a thoughtful communicator? So the more thoughtful you are in your communications, the more of a role model you are and the more respected you are, even if it's unsaid. I remember working way back. I worked at Air Miles, actually, about 20-something years ago. And the president of the company, I sent an email, and I got an email back from him saying, it wasn't about the content of the email, it was that it was so well formatted that it was easy to read. So it doesn't go unnoticed, this thought to be a communication role model. So that's rituals. I want to talk just a little bit in the last minute or two about compassionate leadership. And we heard a lot about leadership presence and about the being versus doing. The presence part is about how you're showing up. How are you being? How are you approaching leadership? And there's several things to think about, and a lot comes from a coaching mindset. How much are you listening? How much are you actively listening to the people at the table and in the room? Are you stopping and slowing down enough to really be present and be part of that conversation? Are you asking questions and showing appreciation and building on what's there to allow for people to grow and develop? Are you showing up in a way that builds trust and creates an open, shared space? Are you showing the vulnerability in your humanness? Are you leading by example? Are you being a role model for the values and the attributes that you want to see? Are you able to, while you've got targets and you might choose to work long hours, are you able to recognize that not everybody on your team does, and take the responsibility to say that even if this is my choice, the behaviors that I show are not going to put that pressure on you to make the same choices for you in your life that I've chosen are good in mine? And so how do we as leaders show up and inspire everyone to make the right choices for them so they sustain their energy? That's what we want. We want our team here and a year from now giving the best of ourselves, and we don't want that energy to deplete. So how are we showing up in that way? And then what are we doing? What are we doing as a leader? Are we asking those questions? Are we cultivating that trust? Are we reaching out and saying, how do you need to succeed? That's the big question I want to have to leave with you, is to ask your team, what do you need to succeed? Keeping in mind that whole productivity model of what you know people need to think about to show up to be at their best, that's the big question. So I'll leave you with that thought. You can think about meerkats and sensitivity and including as many people as you can from your team so that you're all here more excited than ever a year from now to be contributing to what you want to accomplish. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks so much, Claire. We're going to have Claire stick around here for just a second because we want you to get into your agenda, pop into the exchange that gives you the opportunity to ask Claire some questions on some of the amazing things she just presented. One of the things I really like that you said, you talked about the rituals and reframing them. We have an executive coach that works with us at Thought Exchange named Martin Williams, and he encouraged my team a couple of weeks ago to start saying on our to-do list, use more encouraging language, like, I get to call so-and-so. And I thought, oh my gosh, how I would approach my to-do list if I just started using verbs like that or adjectives like that on that. So I really appreciated that. Yeah. Okay, so get in there, guys. Claire's got lots of wisdom and lots of really great nuggets. So get in there and ask some questions. Share what you think. Star your colleagues' thoughts. And then we'll spend about 10 minutes going through some questions with you. Okay, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started with thoughts and questions for Claire. Okay, what are your thoughts and questions for Claire? If you want to, Claire, I'm just going to have you dive right in.
Okay. So how would you approach having a discussion with a leader who has low self-awareness that compassion drives productivity? So you can't talk to someone who doesn't want to talk to you, first of all. So I think it's an invitation, really. It's an invitation to probably explore what is getting in their way. Productivity, I would bet, is a concern for almost everybody out there. So I would start with a question about what is getting in the way and see where we go from there and look for threads to see if compassion comes up. And then we can get into some storytelling and looking at exact examples. Is it okay if I ask, this is anonymous, right? With the questions. But if there's somebody who asks a question who wants to add something to that.
Yeah.
Now, if all I'm going to just say is if you want to add anything more specific or help me see if I've not nailed it, if I can go deeper on that. If you want to say something, just feel free to contribute.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. This is really a starting point. So
Yeah.
if Claire says anything that you want to really dive into, or it sparks something else for you, feel free to just raise your hand, and I think you'd be happy
we'll dance
to do
with this a little bit
I
to
love
see
that.
where we go. Okay. So yeah, it's a discussion. Okay. Yeah.
This one is funny to me because I'm like, I know which one I would choose.
Which one would you choose?
Sleep.
And the science will back you up. So if it's choosing between exercise and sleep, you're going to always put sleep first. And I want you to call sleep healing time. It's not the downtime when the body's doing nothing. This is when all the toxins and all the crap that we've been taking in our day is actually being flushed out of our brain. Has anybody ever had a nap and woke up and felt dramatically different, even in 10 minutes? Yeah, so there's a brain cleanse actually happening. It's like you're putting your body through a car wash, and you can come out and you can think more cleanly, you can make better decisions. My kids are teenagers, and they've been studying for exams, and you can see they're glazing over. I'm like, you take a 15 to 20-minute power nap now, and then re-energize and come at this again. You'll have more patience, energy, stamina for what you're trying to do. So definitely choose sleep over exercise, but if you're regularly having to do that, then there's a bigger question in terms of time management and how are we going to fit the exercise in, because exercise is really important. And the reason I had on the productivity image, it's 8-sided because, yes, table stakes is a poker term and you can have an 8-sided poker table, but it was also a jewel. And the jewel showed the different cuts, which meant to show you that all of the different elements are interrelated. And so your exercising will actually help you sleep better. Right? If you've moved in your day, if you haven't, you may not sleep as well. If you sleep well, you can make better decisions because you're rested. Who here wakes up in the morning without an alarm? Okay, and you feeling rested. That's the goal I want for everyone, is to have such a regular sleep pattern that you know that you can wake for your morning commitment and having had enough sleep. It's life-changing to be able to do that. I used to wake up a grumpy mom. And absolutely not enough patience for my little kids until I did an experiment to see how much sleep I needed. It's somewhere between 7 and 9 hours. I always say aim for 8. And if you don't wake up feeling rested after allowing yourself the 8-hour time span, add 15 minutes by going to bed 15 minutes earlier until you find what your number is. I think 1/3 of Canadians are getting less than 7 hours, but I'm sure more than 1/3 are not getting enough sleep because you might need up to 9. So there's a healthy percentage of people who are not getting enough sleep. Therefore, you're not doing the healing. Therefore, you're opening yourself up to longer-term challenges. Okay. How can companies get involved with promoting self-awareness? I mean, there's so many options now, which is fantastic. I mean, the apps like Calm or Headspace are really simple things that people can do on their own. We can, I think, have a conversation about saying that mindfulness and self-awareness and cultivating it, knowing yourself is important. So if self-development becomes part of the conversation and learning, and there's a growth plan for developing self, that can be part of the conversation. Certainly working with coaches, as we've heard. I think a big challenge is bringing the coach down to enough people in the organization because it can be quite an investment. So perhaps group coaching initiatives around this so we can have group conversations around topics like this could be another more affordable way to get into it. Okay. How do you create this shift in perspective in an organization, create behavior change? Well, it's funny, I've given lots of workshops over the years, and whenever I'm talking to a junior group of people, they're like, we need you to tell our senior management this stuff. We need those people to understand your message because we don't see them living this. And so I firmly believe that it's one person at a time to understand. If you understand those productivity table stakes in particular, and if you understand the importance of setting your compass and being that CFO, those two things alone are very, very powerful. And if we get role models at every level, conversation by conversation, influence by influence, I think, yeah, you were saying, Desi, it's not the person at the top necessarily who's going to be the one who forces the change. All of a sudden, you'll notice a current of shift. And it's starting. There's a different sensibility. There's an energy and awareness out there that's growing. And you'll look at the person that's thriving and you'll say, what's he or she doing? Like, what are they doing to show up in that state of energy, positivity, contribution, and accomplishment? And they can be inspiring. Yeah.
Okay, maybe a couple more.
Sure. Oh, love this. How open are companies to talking about things like light and noise? So many open office spaces and distractions. So that meerkat, the meerkat could not work in an open office without being incredibly taxed. I used to take the subway downtown, walk underground in a tunnel like a rat, come up 2 stories and sit in a dark office. And for me, that was a completely unhealthy experience and very exhausting. And so for me, I needed to work part-time from home, part-time in the office was great. That combination, I liked very much. So how do we talk about these things? I think it's bringing this sense of humanity back into the conversation. I was talking to a company that does lighting design, and he said, when we get the RFPs, it's all about cost. So we're putting LED solutions in. We're not even thinking about the human comfort with the light. My sister works in a call center, and she's working a 4 p.m. till midnight shift under fluorescent lights, which are bright on the whole time. She's resorted to a hat and sunglasses to dim the light because it's messing with her circadian rhythm. Absolutely, right? So I think it's about bravery. So I was bravery back in the day in 1995 when now we talk about millennials are there people that are really cultivating and they want a great work experience. I think I was just born in the wrong generation because I was vocal about it then, but people thought I had 3 heads. I think now we're starting to realize that our environment can affect productivity so greatly that we need people to continually be brave. And actually, what I would put to you is I think it needs to be part of the onboarding conversation when we're hiring to say, what do you need? Paul, what do you need to show up and thrive in your work? Do you want to work in an open concept office? Can you thrive there? Do you need a mix of both? What kind of schedule do you need? What do you need to thrive as an employee? And if we ask those questions, then we can invite this kind of conversation. I mean, I need to be by a sunny window. That feeds me. I worked beside somebody who liked to work in the dark with just the light of her computer. So the more we can accommodate those human-animal needs, the better off we'll be.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Claire. Please give her a round of applause. Thank you.